Happy New Year 2026 to all of you. We wish you a year filled with health, happiness, and prosperity. Natural disasters are often seen as sudden, powerful environmental events. Earthquakes, floods, storms, and wildfires capture our attention with shocking and dramatic images that fill our screens. But once the headlines fade and the immediate danger passes, another, more insidious crisis begins to unfold, an economic one. Behind every disaster lies a trail of lost income, broken industries, and long-term economic damage that can cripple communities and nations for years, even decades. Today, Green Earth VN explores the top 10 economic consequences caused by natural disasters, why these profound impacts matter to every single one of us, no matter where we live. 10. Infrastructure. Destructive infrastructure is the essential backbone of any modern economy. It's the network of roads and bridges that transport goods, the power grids that light our homes and fuel our industries, and the water systems that sustain our daily lives. When a disaster strikes, this critical foundation is often the first to crumble. When it collapses, the ripple effects are immediate and severe. Businesses are forced to stop their operations because they can't get supplies or reach customers. Essential public services fail, leaving communities without power, clean water, or communication. The road to recovery becomes incredibly slow and prohibitively expensive. Rebuilding a single bridge can cost millions, and restoring a region's entire power grid can run into the billions. This immense financial burden diverts funds from other vital areas like education and healthcare, slowing down a nation's overall progress. 9. Business interruption. When disasters hit, businesses of all sizes face immense challenges. Factories are forced to shut down due to physical damage or a lack of power and essential utilities. Supply chains, the intricate networks that move products from manufacturers to consumers, are severely disrupted. A single broken link in this chain can halt production lines hundreds or even thousands of miles away. This disruption leads to significant financial losses. While large corporations may have the resources to weather the storm, small businesses are particularly vulnerable. A local shop or family-run restaurant might lose its entire inventory, its premises, or its customer base overnight. For many of these small enterprises, which are often the lifeblood of local economies, a short-term disruption can easily turn into a permanent closure. Recovery is often impossible, leading to a loss of jobs and a hollowing out of community commerce. 8. Job losses and unemployment. When disasters strike, employment often disappears with terrifying speed. As businesses are damaged or forced to close, workers can lose their jobs overnight, plunging them and their families into financial uncertainty. This is particularly devastating for those in the informal sector: day laborers, street vendors, and seasonal workers who often lack savings, social security, or any form of safety net. The loss of a steady income creates widespread instability. People struggle to afford basic necessities like food, water, and shelter. The psychological toll of unemployment, combined with the trauma of the disaster, creates a deep social crisis. For millions of people, long-term career plans are replaced by the immediate, desperate concern for survival. This mass job loss can stall an entire region's economic momentum, making a full recovery even more challenging. 7. Agricultural losses. Natural disasters don't just destroy buildings and infrastructure. They devastate the very land that feeds us. Floods can wash away fertile topsoil, droughts can wither entire fields of crops, and powerful storms can destroy harvests that took months to cultivate. Livestock, a critical source of income and food for many rural communities, are often lost in these events. The consequences extend far beyond the farm gate. The destruction of crops and loss of livestock lead to food shortages in the affected regions, threatening the food security of millions. As supply dwindles, food prices inevitably rise, not just locally but sometimes globally. This impacts everyone, but it hits the poorest households the hardest, as a larger portion of their income is spent on food. The agricultural sector can take years to recover, leaving long-lasting scars on rural economies. 6. Increased government debt. In the aftermath of a major disaster, governments are forced to act urgently. They must provide emergency aid, fund search and rescue operations, and begin the monumental task of rebuilding. These immediate and massive costs place an enormous strain on public finances. To fund these efforts, governments often have no choice but to borrow heavily, both from domestic and international sources. This borrowing leads to a sharp increase in national debt, creating long-term fiscal pressure. The money spent on disaster recovery is money that can no longer be invested in future development projects like new schools, hospitals, or transportation networks. The rising debt can saddle a country with financial burdens for generations, delaying progress and making it more vulnerable to future economic shocks. 5. Rising insurance. Cost insurance is designed to be a financial safety net, protecting individuals and businesses from unforeseen events. However, as natural disasters become more frequent and severe due to climate change, the insurance industry is facing unprecedented challenges. Insurers are paying out record-breaking claims, forcing them to reevaluate risk and increase their prices. As a result, insurance premiums are skyrocketing, especially in disaster-prone areas. In some high-risk regions, insurance is becoming a luxury that few can afford, or it may not be available at all as companies withdraw coverage. This shifts the financial risk directly onto citizens and governments. Without the buffer of insurance, the economic impact of each disaster is amplified, making recovery even more difficult and costly for those who are least able to bear it. 4. Decline in tourism for many regions around the world. Tourism is a cornerstone of the economy. It creates jobs, supports local businesses, and brings in valuable foreign currency. However, the tourism industry is incredibly fragile and depends on perceptions of safety, stability, and natural beauty. When a disaster damages a popular destination, the impact is immediate and devastating. Tourists cancel their plans and stay away, sometimes for years. Hotels, restaurants, and tours operators lose their customers, leading to a collapse in the local economy. The damage is not just physical, it's also reputational. It takes a long time to rebuild trust and convince visitors that it is safe to return. The long road to rebuilding a destination's image can be just as challenging as rebuilding its infrastructure. 3. Increased poverty and inequality. Natural disasters do not affect everyone equally. They disproportionately harm the most vulnerable members of society. Poor communities often live in high-risk areas like low-lying coastal zones or unstable hillsides, because they have no other choice. They also have fewer resources to prepare for a disaster and far less access to the aid and support needed for recovery. When a disaster strikes, these communities are hit the hardest. They lose their homes, their livelihoods, and their few assets. The disaster widens the already existing gap between the rich and the poor, deepening social inequality. Without adequate support, families can be trapped in a cycle of poverty that is nearly impossible to escape, creating social tensions and hindering the overall recovery of the nation. 2. Long-term economic slowdown. The economic shock of a natural disaster can reverberate for a very long time. Beyond the immediate costs of destruction, the event can trigger a long-term economic slowdown. A country's gross domestic product (GDP) growth can falter as key industries like manufacturing, agriculture, and tourism struggle to recover. Investment, both foreign and domestic, often declines as confidence in the economy wanes. Investors become wary of putting their money into a region that is perceived as unstable or high risk. This lack of investment stifles innovation and growth. For some economies, particularly those of developing nations, a full recovery from a major disaster can take decades. In the most severe cases, some economies never fully return to their pre-disaster trajectory, and the damage lasts far beyond the disaster itself. 1. Loss of human capital. While destroyed buildings and broken infrastructure are the most visible consequences, the most profound and devastating economic loss is the loss of human capital. When disasters force people to flee their homes, it sets off a chain reaction of human loss. Communities are fractured, and social networks that have been built over generations are shattered. Forced migration leads to a brain drain as skilled workers, doctors, engineers, and teachers leave the affected area in search of safety and opportunity elsewhere. Education is severely disrupted as schools are destroyed or used as temporary shelters, robbing an entire generation of children of their future potential. An economy's greatest asset is its people, their skills, their knowledge, and their creativity. When people are displaced and their potential is lost, an economy loses its future. This loss of human capital is the most difficult and painful loss to recover from. Natural disasters are not just environmental crises. They are profound economic shocks that shape the future of nations and the lives of millions. They reveal our vulnerabilities and test our resilience. However, they also present an opportunity to build back better and stronger. Investing in disaster prevention, early warning systems, and climate resilience is not an expense. It is a critical investment in our shared economic stability and our collective future. Which economic consequence do you think is the most dangerous or overlooked? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We would love to hear your perspective. If you found this analysis insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to Green Earth VN for more in-depth environmental documentaries.